Welcome to Film in Minnesota. My name is Rahana.
I'm Alan.
And today we have special guest Jessica Mraz. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. We are going to jump right in, and I'm going to find out just a little bit about you. What, Jessica, is a special, fun talent that you might have that others may or may not know about you?
Well, I like to do sketches, but I also really like to do different accents. So I like to do different, what I think are foreign accents in English, and then also in Spanish, because I'm Spanish speaking. I like to do accents from different countries, like somebody from Cuba, somebody from Argentina, somebody from Spain. So I lived in Miami for a while, and I met so many different people, and for me, it's really fun to do different accents.
Absolutely. Can you give us a taste of that, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure. Maybe you can give me something to say.
Maybe just introduce yourself. Like, I'm Jessica Mraz. This is what I do here in the Twin Cities.
Okay, so if I were from Cuba, okay, and I were going to say that, I would say like, hola, yo soy Jessica, soy cubana, yo soy de acá de Minnesota, y bueno, soy actriz. Okay, but then if I were from Argentina, I would sound completely different, right? Okay, so, bueno, yo soy de Argentina, bueno, soy de acá, soy Jessica, soy actriz, ¿qué te puedo decir?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's so cool.
So they do sound pretty different.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and I like to joke around, and it's just like in English, somebody from the South is going to sound very different.
Right. That totally makes sense. Oh, yeah. Wow. That's so cool. I would love to be able to do that. All right. Well, Jessica, tell us about yourself. What do you do here in the film community?
So I'm a screen actress, and I also do voiceover, and I'm a voiceover coach.
That's phenomenal. How did you get into the coaching aspect of that?
Well, I've been in voiceover now for several years, and about a year ago, a woman that I had been on set with, her name is Maria Cervantes, she and I had been in a short film in which I played her boss. Anyway, we became friends afterwards, and she came up to me last maybe November, and said, hey, can you coach me in voiceover? And so from there, I started coaching and taking people one-on-one, and then word got around, and then I started just taking it from there and giving classes and workshops.
That's so fun.
Yeah, really
what kind of things do you do in those workshops? Like, what do you try and really work with individuals on?
Well, I really feel that a lot of actors come to voiceover and they don't really understand exactly what voiceover is. And they think it's just doing different accents or reading, they don't know. And so I really want people to understand that it's like acting for somebody that can't see you. Right? And so then everything that you want to express needs to come out through your voice. And so I really listen to somebody, and I listen to all the good, unique points about that person. So maybe they have a lot of musicality in their voice. Maybe that person has great pacing, or they speak in a way that is just really wonderful to hear. Like they have maybe a little trill, or they have a fun laugh that comes through naturally. And I work with that, and I focus on those good things and then help them build confidence. And from there, we go in and we work on the areas where they can definitely make improvement, right? Maybe they drop off their sentences at the end, or they take odd, pauses, or they have problems with diction, like I might be having today.
That's okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really wonderful. So what got you into we'll stick with voiceover for now.
Sure. Okay, so up until this September, I've worked as a Spanish interpreter for a couple of different hospitals, mainly Children's Hospital. And I always wanted to get better pay, and I'm a linguist, so I wanted to work for the courts, right? I wanted to work for the courts as an interpreter, and I was studying to be a court interpreter. And I'd passed all of my exams you take them right at the courthouse. And I'd passed them all except for one verbal exam, which is audio. And I was dreading it because nobody ever passes the first time, and it's very expensive. And it was in the summer of 2016. And I'd always wanted to get into voiceover, but I had never found a proper teacher.
Right.
And I had lived in Miami for years where I had worked with a teacher who really wasn't into voiceover. And so I had kind of wasted some time and money there. So I suppose I was a little dejected about that. But then I went on this trip and I went to a town in oh my gosh, what was it? Michigan. Yeah. And it was a little beachside town and I was there for a couple of weeks and I felt so relaxed. And when I got home, I thought, I know I don't want to I don't want to be an interpreter. I don't want to work with criminals. I don't want to be in the court system. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I know I'm not going to pursue that. And it was very freeing.
Oh, wow.
And then the next day, I received this phone call from somebody with a very heavy accent, and he said, "Hello, do you speak Italian?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, you can help me do recording in Italian for big company." And I was like, "Who is this?" Right? And I thought, "Oh God," when he had like this office in an area of town that I don't really go to.
Right.
And I thought, "Oh no." And then he said, "I'll have my partner call you." And I was like, "Okay, great."
Yeah.
And then his partner called. He's like, "Hi, Jessica," and he was like really breezy, And he said, "Yeah, so it's for this company called Aveda." And I thought, "Oh yeah,
oh wow,
I'll do it." And he said, "Do you speak Italian, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how well?" And I said, "Oh, very well." And because I used to live in Italy.
Oh wow.
And so he said, "Okay, great." And they quoted me this terribly low price, and I thought, no way.
Yeah.
No way. And so I did it. And so I sent in a small recording and I got booked. And so that I was within maybe 5 days, I was in Aveda headquarters and they have their own recording studio. And
that's so cool.
Booked 2 big industrials. Yeah, sorry, 2 big industrials. And it was really, really, really fun. And I have them on my YouTube channel now. And after that, I thought, okay, I'm going to take this money and invest in proper training. And then I started doing it. And from there on, it moved really quickly for me. So long story, but that's how it
That's
turned
wonderful.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. When did you live in Italy? Like, is that...
Yeah, I was in my 20s. So it was a few years ago. And I went to school there. I got a scholarship to go. And I majored in Spanish and Italian at the University of Minnesota. And so then I lived in Italy for a couple of years, and then I didn't want to come back. But I did. And then I've been back many times to visit.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Man.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate. My parents helped me a lot.
What were you doing voiceover before you got into acting then? Is that sort of how you got into that, or?
Yeah, so I mean, voiceover is acting, but it's a different type of acting.
Yes.
You know that. But yeah, when after about 5 months of studying voiceover, I was invited to More Creative to their talent agency, and they were looking for somebody who spoke Spanish and English, but English without an accent, which isn't that common because a lot of people have an accent in one or the other. Anyway, and the next day I was in the booth, and I started working for them. They signed me, and I was exclusive with them for 2 years. And so then I got into on camera, and from there I got into film. So it was kind of an interesting avenue. Some people are in theater, and then they get into voiceover, and
that's really cool.
Yeah. And so now I do mostly, I haven't really done that much theater, a little bilingual theater, but mostly on camera, stuff like that. And some film.
Have you done anything recently that you might want to talk about?
Sure. In terms of film?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So I was cast in a feature film by Alexander P. Gutterman, and it's called The Hunter. And I play the role of the woman in this film. And it's great because it was my first lead role in a feature, and it was a really cool character. Really, really, the entire film is fantastic, and now it's in post-production, which is great.
That's exciting.
But yeah, the role was something that I had to really dig deep to get into. A person who I thought I had nothing in common with at all. I thought, how will I embrace this character?
Right.
She seems so forlorn, and then I found a piece of her inside of me, and I was able to bring that up. And what's so remarkable is that I really think that the director saw her in me, which is why they cast me, but
Right.
it's interesting because I thought, gosh, this is so different from any role I've ever played. Very rewarding. Very rewarding.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's the best, like as an actress, like finding something not only within the character, but like within yourself that you didn't like realize was there. Because now not only have you been able to bring this to that character, but you'll have that in your toolbox moving forward.
Right.
So that's wonderful.
It was. And working with Alexander Gutterman and his whole team was incredible. I mean, they were so supportive and so appreciative and so, I mean, he's brilliant, There's just, I can't wait for the film to come out.
Do they have an expected release date, or when they're hoping to have it finished?
I don't know about an expected release date, but I think that they'll make sure to announce that.
Right.
That's exciting.
Do you find that when you're doing a challenging role such as that, do you find that like your talents as a voice actor also come into play? Like, how do you find the voice of that character? Or
yeah, I had to walk onto set already being in that character, and I had to really flatten my voice, very flat affect a lot of the time, and I had to understand that this character isn't one-dimensional. No one is. And so then to also be open to finding parts of myself that could relate to her and kind of meld, right? So then my voice wasn't completely lost, right? And so I think so, yeah. You have to be able, as a voiceover actor, you have to train your voice really well, and you have to be able to manipulate your voice.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and at will. So if you need to speak in a way that's more monotone or, I don't know, more bubbly or girly, then you have to be able to do that. Yeah.
Is like, so you didn't get into voiceover initially by having some large dream of doing specifically voiceover and acting and all of that. But is that something that you think might have been in the back of your head? Like, since you did have an appreciation and passion for language and accent and all of that?
I think so. See, I wanted to get into voiceover, and I took what I thought were voiceover classes from a woman in Miami Beach who was a theater actor. And, it's different there. I mean, you go in, you pay up front and hope for the best.
Right.
And when I got there were no microphones, and it was a bunch of people who wanted to be voiceover actors but didn't even understand exactly that there should be microphones and that we should, all be receiving recordings of our work.
Right.
And it was not very helpful to me. I mean, I think that she was an actor, and I think she talked a lot about goal setting and visualization, but nothing ever came of it. And it felt like a waste of time.
Yeah.
From there, I met an Italian singer who worked with me to help me find my vocal range, but that really just turned into kind of like singing lessons. And so after that, I didn't know where to turn. And when I moved back to Minneapolis after being in Florida for 10 years, I had a new baby, and it was, a while ago. Yeah. And I wasn't really in a position to branch out and start getting into voiceover acting, but I always had it in my mind and in my heart. And I think that I've always been an actor. I've always found ways to do little sketches with my family, with my son. And yes, I think that it's not like I wasn't an actor before. I just wasn't acting. Makes sense?
Absolutely. So if you came back to Minneapolis, and that is where you eventually began doing all of these things.
Yeah.
What makes you appreciate and stay in Minneapolis or Minnesota for those things versus maybe trying to get into Chicago or New York or LA or like a bigger market?
Well, I like living here because I have my roots here and I have my family here. And I've been back here now since 2008. Minnesota's been really good for me in terms of acting opportunities. And now I'm a full-time actor, and I dedicate myself to this, and I've no longer have a day job, so I feel really fortunate. And it's happened to me in 3.5 years. So,
Wow.
So I started in August of 2016
Mm-hmm.
and was working as a voiceover talent in February of 2017. So in 5 months. And I worked really, really hard at it, but I also had, I think, some good connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like it here. I think that the film community here is very strong, and I think it's growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we'll see more and more feature films. And I like a smaller community like this because people know each other and they want to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to do a lot of work. I just helped a filmmaker with one of his actors who needed a little help in doing some ADR.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
For voiceover. And so I worked with her privately, and then we worked together on set. And it was super fun for me. It's very rewarding. And I feel like I have a really good setup here. I mean, I'm represented, and it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. I like it, but the winters are long.
Very. We were actually just talking about that.
Yeah.
We're like, man, it feels like winter should be just about over. It's still
today feels
just
like spring, but
yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
it's usually pretty cold.
Mm-hmm. I know. I feel
So I'm curious. So take us back to 2016. It's maybe like the last day of your day job, let's say. What was that like? What was going through your mind? What was
So my
your-
day job ended this past September.
Oh,
But 2016
Oh, okay.
was when I started in voiceover.
I see. So then this year,
Oh,
then.
much easier to
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
yeah.
What was that like? Your last day
Of
on
work?
on a day
Yeah,
job?
of
and
saying,
then-
okay, I'm giving this
Yeah.
up. I'm taking this leap.
It was a huge leap of faith for
Mhm.
me.
I bet.
When I got cast in the role for the hunter, I knew that I would be away for several days, and I knew that I would probably be away at different points. So 3 days here, 2 days there. And I also knew that I had several commercials that were coming up. And I had been unhappy at my job as an interpreter. I don't feel that I was compensated well. I had been there for 11 years.
Whoa.
And I had just been given a full-time position in the last year, and I had been passed over a lot by other interpreters who, for whatever reason, were given that job. And I'm not sour about it, but I felt that I was spinning my wheels there.
Right.
And I felt that if I didn't fully commit to being an artist and really believe that I would be able to make it without those steady paychecks of a day job, then I never would really attract what I wanted. And so I decided that I would drop down to casual status at my job. And it was right around mid-September, and my boss said, okay, well, you can move to casual status, but we don't really know how many hours we could promise you, and you'll have to take a cut in pay. And I just felt insulted.
Yeah.
And so I decided to resign, and that was my last day. And I didn't leave in a negative fashion, and I wrote a nice letter, and I said goodbye to all my coworkers by email because I decided that evening. And it was the most freeing feeling in the world to realize that my time was once again my own.
Wow.
And I remember taking my dog for a walk, and the air felt so soft. Everything felt like so easy and like cotton. I know it sounds odd, but I really felt it felt so tangible to me. And I've had my moments where I've wondered, oh gosh, what was I thinking? You know, what if I don't book something? But my classes fill, and I do book, so I'm happy. And I feel good about it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I felt that day. I felt very free and very trusting.
And then it's day one of your film, it sounds like, right? What was that like?
Well, I drove up to Duluth where it was shot. And I got there in the evening, and it was really wonderful. I got together with the rest of the crew and the team, and the executive producers were there. And then the next morning we were on set, and I think call time wasn't that early. It was about 8. And it was wonderful. I mean, it's It's so great. It's so interesting how every time you go on set, they're like, come to the green room. And there's always a green room. It's so wonderful. It's fantastic. And I had a good scene partner who's just really professional and smart, and working with both the the director and just everybody on the team was really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. And I was excited to try on the wardrobe that they had. I had this beautiful velvet coat that I got to wear for the last scene. That was really beautiful. It was really regal looking.
So is this the feature film? Is that the first film that you've done here in the cities, or have you also done other projects, been part of shorts or Z-Fest, 48-hour film festival, things like that? So with Z-Fest, I just did voiceover coaching. So I was not part of that film as an actor. The first film that I was in the summertime of 2017. And I had a lead role in a short that never made it out of footage. And I played a psychologist in a juvenile detention center. And I loved it. And it was so great. It was such a great film, but it never made it out of footage. And then I was in Chased, a feature film that has, I think they've finished production.
Probably still in production. Probably.
Yeah, I heard that the it's pretty much done, I think.
Okay.
So, and that was in 2017, and I was supposed to just have kind of like a B role, where no lines. So it was a speaking role. And then the morning of, I get this phone call from the director, Cole Meyer, and I thought, oh no, they're kicking me out. Oh God, no.
Oh, geez.
And he said, hi, we'd like to bump you up to a speaking role. Can you be here in 30 minutes? Well, I live down the street from where the scenes were being shot that day. And I said, I can be there in 45. And I was literally fresh out of the shower with wet hair. And I got there in 45 minutes. And, And so I got more of a role. And then the role grew a little bit. And there were some scenes added. So just a few lines, but a bunch of different scenes. It was great.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
So that was really fun for me.
Oh, fun.
Opportunity knocks, right?
Yeah, you have to be open to it, and they were really great people to work with as well. H.D. Altman, Cole Meyer. So, and then the great thing is when you work with people, if they like working with you, they'll recommend you. Hopefully,
So exactly.
And especially when you have 30 minutes to prepare.
Well, so I was supposed to be there maybe an hour and a half, and they said, "Could you come in early?" Early, yeah. So it wasn't. They were expecting me just a little later.
Gotcha.
That's still pretty good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if they say, hey, we need you here half an hour early or an hour early, and you say, yes, sir.
He knew I lived down the street, too.
Okay.
Yeah. H.C. Altman and I were neighbors for a while. We lived a couple blocks away from each other.
Oh, nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Have you been part of the Actors Expo and all of that happens here in the cities as well?
So I've gone to it the last couple of years. And I got an invitation to be a part of it, and I can't say anything more about that.
Okay, all right.
So I may be doing some. Yeah, I may
have a role.
Yeah, I have a role that got invited.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so we'll see. Bill Cooper invited me, and it's interesting because the night before I thought, God, I would love to have a booth there. I would love to do coaching. How can I make that happen? And when is it? Is it March or April? And I was driving, and I remember I was driving in my parking lot. You go down those little spirals, and I thought, I wonder how I could be a part of that. And the next day I got an email and said, would you like to maybe teach this or do that? And I said, oh, sure. And they said, we're in the beginning stages. Right. So you never know.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, how cool.
Yeah. I would love that. It would be for voiceover. So we'll see.
Right.
No, I've probably said too much.
That's right. But that makes perfect, sense. Though. I think that's something that a lot of talent here in the cities is looking for. Yeah. Because they want to get into it, but don't necessarily know how, or think it might be a little easier than it is, or more difficult. So it's good to have someone where they can say, okay, well, I'm going to this event anyway. Right. Now I can get a little more direction.
Right. And I think that it's important that you find the coach that will work with you in a way that makes you feel really comfortable and really safe as an actor, so that you don't get up to the mic and start speaking and the first thing that you get is redirection about everything that you're doing wrong or not doing at all.
Right.
Because then it just becomes a matter of self-correcting rather than expression.
Right.
So when somebody gets up to the mic, I'm always listening for all the golden nuggets, right? Where are they? Oh, they have this gorgeous projection in their voice. That right there is a huge part of it. Oh, they have so much musicality, or they've got a really great approach to the script. They understand, or I feel like they're talking to me. Something like that. All those basic things. There's so many things that make somebody a great voiceover artist. And I've had some really good coaches, and I've had some coaches that I felt confused me quite a bit. And I think that's true for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
We all have had good teachers, and I think it's the right match. Those coaches that didn't work for me maybe worked for somebody else.
Sure.
And that's okay. But I really want people to feel really welcome in my class, and I think my classes are great. I think people learn, and they're happy to come back to class after the first one.
That's good. You should think your class is good.
Well, I think that I see them as being very supportive, and yet I'm very honest with people. If I work with someone and I think that they're not ready for voiceover yet, and they haven't developed themselves enough as an actor in terms of improv and expression, then I'll say, hey, I think you should take some improv training, and then we'll try again.
Right.
You know, in a year or 6 months or 6 weeks, right? Whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a craft of growing and learning, and sometimes that takes time. Most of the time, it should take time.
Yeah.
And you really want to own it. So.
And I think that sometimes people think of voiceover as something they can just add on.
Right.
Like, oh, well, I'm really great in theater, which is very important, by the way. Some of the best voiceover talent I found are theater majors or theater actors, stage actors.
Right.
They've already learned how to project their voice really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, this isn't just something that you can like kind of tack on like, well, now, you know, like a skill, like, well, I also do yoga and volleyball. No, that it's not like that. It's a completely separate type of work. And in many ways, it can be more difficult than screen acting. I've heard people say, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be, that you have to make everything come out through your voice.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm very curious about your process. I guess like when you first started doing voiceover, I know you come from interpreting background.
Yeah.
Like, how has that played a role in, like, because was your first one speaking Italian? Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That just happened.
So, but that was like your first experience of like kind of doing.
So I had done a
paid
couple
work,
of
kinda?
voiceovers in the past, but I didn't know that they were voiceovers. I thought I was just
Oh.
doing, you know, kind of like a fun vocal, I don't want to say exercise. Okay. I used to work at this Italian restaurant called Buca. Okay. They're in downtown Minneapolis, Buca di Beppo. I think they changed their name. And when I was working there, obviously I spoke Italian, and they wanted somebody who was, I guess, gregarious and spoke Italian that could make a recording for the men's restroom. And so it would be two women speaking in Italian. Oh. And they wanted people to feel shocked when they walked into the restroom. So it's kind of a funny, weird place.
Right.
And they wanted them to, oh God, there are two women in here talking. Because when you walk in, it just sounds like they're talking.
Yeah.
And so they said, could you do this for us, please? You know, it's so easy. And then we'll give you like a gift certificate or a gift card or whatever.
Right.
And that was a long time ago. And I was in college and I didn't really care.
Sure.
Right.
So I did it. And so every time the men's bathroom door would open, I would hear like, "Oh, amore mio," you know? And so we recorded it. So we recorded this kind of like a little sketch, right, between me and another woman. But the thing is that my voice is kind of low already, and when I was singing this Italian, kind of like a little song and it's kind of a parody it got lower. So then I thought I sounded like a man. But at any rate, we recorded it in a studio in St. Paul, and the script was very boring. So I just decided that I was going to change it. And they loved it, and it turned out great. And so I thought, oh, this is so fun. And I didn't really think of it as voiceover work, but it is. It is.
Interesting.
So I did that, and then I also did one for a school that I used to work at when I lived in Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. And then I've always done tons of IVR. People will always ask me to do their phone messaging and things like that. So there were always little teeny hints that, oh, you like this. It's good for you. You should do this. Things like that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I guess I should also ask, what else, what are the other languages you speak? Is it Spanish, Italian, anything else?
English.
Okay.
Well, yes. Yeah. No, I don't speak any other languages, and it's not like I just stopped, okay, I'm on a roll. I just, I really got into other areas of my life. I learned other things like dancing. I was a dancer for a long time when I lived in Florida. And
what kind of dancing?
Middle Eastern dance. So I do ballet dancing.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm not performing now, but I do still dance. I do still, dance for myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I specialize in veil dancing. So I can do veil and double veil with silk veils. Oh, cool. And it's fun. Yeah. I used to perform here in Minneapolis. I was with 2 different professional belly dance troupes.
Okay.
Wow. And when I got more involved as an actor and voiceover and acting, I really realized that that's where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm better at it, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that you find what it is that you're good at or that you feel really confident doing rather than something that you think would make you look good. I think I was a good dancer. Yeah. But I don't think I was an excellent dancer. I think I was a good dancer. And I think that as an actor, that's where I can shine brightest and feel the best about what I do.
Right.
Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Definitely understand that.
Yeah, and that's more important, I think, is knowing your true north. Like, what's your real path and following that. So. Yeah,
I think that we all have an ego. Mm-hmm. We all have an ego, and we all need to know when we're doing something as a hobby or because we like the image of it. And if that's where you are, you're probably not willing to do all the quiet work by yourself. Yeah. All the learning of all the skills and going through all that struggle. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the pain of the art, right? And everything that we want that is really... I'm getting pretty philosophical here.
No, that's good.
Everything that we truly desire and everything that we want comes with work. And if you don't enjoy that type of work, then you shouldn't do it. And I tell voiceover talent that if you're not willing to struggle through these scripts on your own at home and send recordings to me and then have me listen to them or practice, then you probably won't advance very much if you just come in here once a week and get on mic and have fun.
Right.
And if it's just a hobby for you and you just want to take this class, I guess that's okay. But I really want to work with people that love it and are willing to put in the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the same with everything. I mean, if you're, wanting to get in shape and you're going to the gym once a week to work with a trainer and not actually working outside of that, you're not going to get anywhere. If you love the craft, if you love acting and voiceover, then you have to be putting in additional time because that's the actual job. Like if you book something, then that's wonderful and that's where you get to shine and really do like the extra work. But the job is really putting in the work, working on it by yourself, in classes, in auditions. That's what it is.
And that to me is success.
Yes. Yeah.
So then when you go in to audition, you're going in there to embody that character, whoever it is, whether it's the shopper at Target or a lead role for the hunter.
Yeah.
Like I did. When you go in and you realize that when I go in and I am there to work and I'm there to give a good audition, then I can walk out of there and I've done my job. Whether it or not, it doesn't change the fact that I'm very happy and very high on life when I leave. And I think that when you first start out in acting, you feel that if you don't book something, you failed.
Right.
There are a million reasons why you would or wouldn't book something. And sometimes your audition might not be that great. But sometimes your audition might not even be that great and you'll still book it.
Right. Yeah.
Because they see something in you that they can help to grow, and you've got the right look or the right smile or the right energy. It's really about your energy.
Absolutely.
That's why, like, as a person that directs, I like to have in-person auditions, because then you actually get to see the person and get the real energy, not just through a screen or whatever, you know. So it's more in the room stuff. So
yes, I think most actors would prefer an in-person audition. Self-tapes are so difficult, especially in the beginning. You can do like 60 takes and then send it off, and by your 60th take, boy, you know all the lines, but you're so burnt out mentally, and you get no direction. So you could send in 2 takes, but you don't really know
what they're looking for.
They're looking for, and what they're looking for is you. Right? They're always looking for you.
Yeah.
But if I had, put it this way, if I had auditioned for my role in The Hunter by self-tape, I don't think that I would have stood the same chance of getting it. Because when I walked in, I gave a very matter-of-fact, friendly take, right? And then I was redirected down a completely different path, right? So my choice was not wrong. It just wasn't what they were looking for.
Right.
And with direction, I was able to completely transform.
Right.
How can you do that with a self-tape? And I don't even know why people want self-tapes, but I suppose it saves time.
There's the whole ease of it. It's very
I suppose, I mean, if you're, sending in for something long distance versus flying, like that I can understand. But if it's just, I'm going to drive across the city to do it.
Yeah. But then again, it's like how many other self-tapes are coming in? Like, do they even get to your self-tape?
I think that when you give a self-tape, when you do a self-tape, you never know if they've even watched it.
Yes.
You could spend a couple of hours at home by yourself, pretending you have a reader or using your child as a reader. And then you send it in and you hear nothing. Whereas at least you get in front of that person, you know that they've seen you.
Yes.
Right? And it's a great idea.
Casting is so interesting to me because and so does like the idea of like knowing what they want, sort of. Kind of like The Matrix. Like they wanted Will Smith. That was who they wanted. That's not who they got. And now that we see The Matrix, you can't imagine Will Smith as Neo. So it's like interesting, how expectations can change too. So, but also when it comes to auditioning, the whole thing with self-taping is like kind of like, as a filmmaker, it's almost like submitting to a film festival. Did they watch it?
Right.
Or did it depends where you send it, I suppose. If you're sending it into like a major agency too, that's a shot in the dark maybe. So
right.
Yeah.
So you finished The Hunter.
Yes.
They're finishing it up. Do you have things coming up in the like projects coming up that you're going to be working on that you're excited about?
I do.
That you're able to talk about?
Sure. Well, aside from my coaching, which I do a lot of, I'm lucky, I have some great interviews, or I guess they're auditions. One is for a host role, and that would be for a series of videos in which it's a host, but it's a host role, but it's kind of comedic. And I do a lot of industrial and host type spokesperson type roles.
Yeah.
So I have that I'm feeling very confident about.
Right.
And I've been auditioning a lot now that I am exclusive VO talent with Nuts agency. I'm auditioning a lot with them, and that's been really fun. It's been
That's
really
awesome.
Great.
And I'm always submitting for film. January has got to be the slowest month for actors, but I've been keeping busy.
Yeah.
So I'm always on the lookout for films. I am being considered for a TV series that's in New York.
Wow.
But we don't have the audition date yet. So that could be soon, or it could be
Yeah.
way down the
That's
line.
how
And
those
that's
things
hard
go.
to say. until
Yeah.
until I have an audition, it just feels like a dream. So we'll see.
But it's an
that's an exciting
dream.
role.
Yeah.
That's an exciting role of a very fun woman who's of Greek and Italian origin.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of interesting, but she's a New Yorker, so we'll see. You never know.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Have you ever lived in New York or been there? Or?
I did live in New York for just under a year when
wow.
I was 19. Was I 19?
Wow.
How fun.
Yes, I was 19.
Oh, wow.
And I lived in the Lower East Side. And I had two roommates that were older than me, and they were both named Jeffrey. and
Okay.
the Lower East Side wasn't what the Lower East Side is
Yeah.
now, right?
Mhm.
Now it's pretty trendy and desirable. It was not very desirable. and there was always somebody that I had to step over on my front
Oh.
steps on the stoop. But I did live in New York, and it was wonderful. It was really great.
What made you decide to move out of there
Well,
or away from New York?
I think that I was lonely in terms that I was pretty young and I wasn't in school. I just moved out there like I'm going to move out here because it's so cool. And I had older
Yeah.
friends that lived out there. And, after a while, you realize that a lot of cities can be the same if you are going to work and going home. It's not like when you're visiting and,
Right.
hanging out and you have plenty of money and plenty of time and
Right.
you can
Yeah.
just go sightsee there. You're like, this is tough here.
Yeah.
So I came back and that's when I started college.
Oh,
you
okay.
know. But I did have a lot of fun. And of course, in like the 6 to 9 month period that I was there, every single friend I had came to visit. So I always had somebody to go out with. And I was so young. It was great. I think everybody should do that. Go live somewhere fun.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. New York is amazing.
Yeah.
If you were going to move anywhere outside of Minnesota at any point in your life from here on out, where do you think you would love to try and live?
If money weren't an issue.
Right. Yeah.
I would love to spend some time in Europe. I would love to live for periods of time in Italy. I would love to go back to Rome, where I lived. I would love to visit countries that I've never been to, like Slovakia. That's the origin of my last name, Slovak.
Oh.
And I would love but in the United States, I would probably pick New York or LA. I love Los Angeles for the same reason. I love New York too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so different from each other, and yet when you're talking to somebody from the East Coast or when you're talking to somebody from the West Coast, if it's on the phone, you immediately know you are. There's just a delivery and a way of speaking to them that's different. Just like when I'm talking to somebody from here. I can just tell.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's true. Like they picked up on my O's out there in LA when I lived there for a time. When I said Minnesota,
Yeah.
the O's stick out. So it's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Every time I would go back, I'm originally from San Francisco, so every time I would go back to visit my friends and my family, they would make fun of how I speak because I would pick up on the accent here, and then I'd be there for like a month and I would pick up my original accent and I would come back and then my friends here would make fun of me for it. So it's so funny how you don't notice those little differences because you're just not aware of like how you're sounding to everyone else.
Yeah.
But wow, is it obvious for everybody else?
I agree. After living in Florida for 10 years, I came back and I know that my family would kind of bristle up sometimes when they would hear me say things like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes.
Your sister. You know, because Miami's very different. Now, Miami is different in the sense that it sounds a little bit East Coast.
Yeah,
but
little
then you
Jersey.
have like
Yeah.
a little bit of Latino accent in there that all the people that grow up there sound like, regardless of their origin. They all sound,
Right.
It's something, and it's I can pick it up in a second when I go back. I can pick it up in a second with
I believe it.
my friends that I still have in Miami. They're wonderful.
That's incredible. Do you get to go back and visit often?
I was there a few years ago, but I've been traveling a little bit more. I've gone to New York a few times, gone to LA a few times, and then it's been great. So I haven't been to Miami in a few years. I guess I'm overdue for a visit. My son was born there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Has he gone back to visit with you then too?
Yeah. We've gone back a few
That's
times,
wonderful.
and he loves it, and he knows that he's from there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's something you cling to.
Exactly.
So is there something within film that you maybe haven't, like a role that you haven't taken on that you feel like you might be interested in taking a stab at sometime outside of voiceover and acting?
Definitely. In terms of film, I would love to be in a period piece. And I would like to play somebody who has had like a great love, you know, or somebody that has or had like a great tragedy, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I would love to be in a leading role of something that was very dramatic. I've played roles where I've been the villain. I played a villain role in a film that I hope one day will make out of production. Hint, hint. It's called Martha's Cup, and I played a very mean boss. And that's how I met Maria Cervantes, my very first voiceover student. Anyway, that was a great film, and I played somebody who was very mean, and it was really easy to do. It felt really good.
That's
is
fun.
Which is weird to be the villain and enjoy it. So the character that I played in The Hunter wasn't like that. This strong, angry, controlling person. But I would like to play somebody that has, I don't want to say Game of Thrones, but somebody of that period, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I loved it. I loved Downton Abbey, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I feel like those like eras, and even like in The Crown, like just something that really stands out with like the costume and like everything about the characters has to be so precise, and it's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's understandable.
Yeah. I would love to play that.
I suppose when it comes to film for you this year, do you have any big plans for this year or hopes that you're...
For film?
Yeah, well, whatever, film, voiceover, any bigger plans for you this year, 2020?
I'd like to do more work in narration for voiceover. So now that I'm signed with Nuts, I know that I'll be hopefully doing more narration work. I'm going to be recording a couple of narration demos this week for my, for my demos that I have with them. And that's always really exciting and fun to do and to listen to. I would like to do work in film, something that would take me to a different city, right? So if I were to audition for something on Actors Access and get a role in a film in New York City, that's something I've been visualizing. I would love that. I would love to be in, I wouldn't say a thriller, but a really strong drama, right? With a lot of action. That would be really great.
Absolutely. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
How can people reach you if they want to either work with you, if they want you to audition, if they want to just talk to you more, or also if they are interested in taking your classes?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. Call me tonight. No, you can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Jessica Mraz, and that's Mraz. You can also email me at jessicamraz1@gmail.com and join my Facebook group. It's Jessica Mraz Voiceover. Originally was Golden Pipes Voiceover, but I wanted something that people could really connect with me. Mm-hmm. So definitely, yeah, and you can reach out to me. So many people that I teach come from referrals. Mm-hmm. So I'd be thrilled. And I do have a workshop coming up on January 11th at 7 p.m. in Northeast Minneapolis. And it's open to people who are new to voiceover. It's a mixed level workshop, and we'll be doing a lot of fun work on mic with great copy.
Nice.
By the time this is out, it'll probably already be done. But
yeah. How often do you do those, though?
So I do a workshop every month.
Okay.
And I teach out of an acting studio. Mm-hmm. It's an old bottling company over in Northeast Minneapolis off Marshall. And I also teach class on Wednesday night and Thursday morning.
Nice.
Yeah, and I teach private sessions as well. So
wonderful.
People can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to them about their voiceover goals.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Perfect. Well, final question. How would you like people that work with you or watch your performances to remember you?
I want to be remembered for my uniqueness. And for my honesty in embodying the character. So many people talk about getting into character, but I really feel it's about letting that character come inside of you. Mm-hmm. And I would hope that people would be able to see that in me and maybe not recognize me at all when they're watching a film. That to me would be a marker of big success.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to be here with us today. Yeah. We really appreciate getting to know you and spreading your information with our listeners.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us.
And next time, thanks, listeners. We'll see you later.